when you fall down enough or you make enough mistakes and get slapped on the hand enough, you learn. And so I just never gave up. I think that's kind of what the secret sauce has been, is I just never gave up, even when it got hard.
So welcome back, everybody, to the Future of Hospitality. This episode is part of our special series, Unscripted Hospitality, where we really talk honestly and just have discussions without filters and talking about the industry and the amazing people that we have in it and that really makes the industry. And today's episode is powered by Auhai, the leading global sales organization representing the world's finest luxury hotels and resorts. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our guest. This one is very special to me because Tarji and I, we go back a long time, over 20 years. And Tarji Carter, she's an accomplished hospitality leader. You're going to learn a lot about her journey, but she started in hotels back in the day and now leads a very profitable and impactful company in the franchise space, the franchise player. And it's someone that really helped and continues to help people develop their careers and really drive our industry. So, Tarji, welcome, and I can't wait for our conversation.
Cesar, this is awesome, man. That 20 plus years it's been since we've known each other, and this is like a full circle moment for me. So thank you for having me.
It is, and I forgot to tell you, it's funny, so now we're taping early 2026, and as I did my LinkedIn sent me a little recap of my 2025. And one of the things it had, that was my first connection, and you were my first LinkedIn connection.
Oh my!
Can you believe that?
I never knew that. Yeah, that is so cool.
That is amazing. So, here we are. So my first LinkedIn connection, and here we are.
I'm sure there are plenty of other stories you can tell, but we'll stick to that one.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it.
And, so Tarji, so I guess to get started, we were talking right before we hit record that, your path really hasn't been linear. Is a path that I haven't seen, honestly, not many people, especially like you. I don't think anyone. So, would you mind just sharing a little bit about your journey and kind of any that point, pivotal point or any turning point that kind of is the catalyst to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, Cesar. This is really great to be able to share this story, because I'm very excited about my journey. Because like you said, it hasn't been linear. It's not something I could have put on paper and said, hey, this is how it's going to work. So I started my career in travel. So I was a travel agent right out of school. I was a travel agent and decided I wanted to get in the hotel industry. I had done a tour, a hotel tour, right? You know how those go. And it was the Westin Copley Hotel in Boston. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's the job I want. And so I went over and I applied, but there weren't any sales jobs available. So I applied to be an assistant to the catering director. Crazy story. And so I interviewed with several people, and then I made my way to the director of sales and marketing. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't hire you for that role. And I thanked her for the opportunity to interview. She said, I need you on my sales team.
All right.
She needed me on her sales team to cater to the travel agency community because they were struggling with their transient business. And so it was like a perfect fit. I didn't know that this wasn't even an opportunity that was posted. So that kind of started just the trajectory of this hospitality journey for me. Did that for several years, was fortunate enough to be recruited by a hotel here in Atlanta, which is where we met.
Yeah.
um, back in 2003. So we're dating ourselves. So I did that for a while. I took a brief detour and worked as the executive assistant to Tyler Perry. And then from there, I went to work at a hotel near Perimeter Mall, and I met the then president of Cinnabon Corporation. And I was just doing my job, and long story short, I was invited to corporate office to meet a few people. That's exactly what I did. And next thing you know, I was hired as a sales manager for the Carvel ice cream brand. So I did that for 8 months. And at the 8-month mark, I was promoted to the director of franchise sales for Cinnabon and Carvel ice cream. Crazy story, right? And so that started my journey in franchising. And so it's interesting because all of those worlds kind of collide and have really gotten me to the point where I'm at today. So very unorthodox or non-traditional path, but here we are.
Very nice. Very nice. And then I have something that came to mind as you're talking, but I want to make sure that you brag about your current company a little bit and what you do. So, okay, so you did this great thing, development, selling franchise, then, okay, how did you come up with this and what you're doing today?
Yeah. So once I got into franchising, I worked for a ton, like I say, it's a laundry list of some of the world's most delicious brands, right? We're talking ice cream and cinnamon rolls and donuts and wings and all the things. And so I just got to a point where I felt like I had accumulated enough resources and experience, and I wanted to use that information to help others understand that franchise ownership is achievable for pretty much everyone, as long as you have a strategy in place and you're working with brands that are operating with integrity, have infrastructure. And sometimes it's a little overwhelming if you've not experienced it before. So I figured I've been blessed to be in all these rooms, worked for all these different companies, and I really need to take this information and share it with those that need it the most.
Yeah.
That's what
was it scary?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's still scary. Like every day is so different. So in 2023, I started a company called The Franchise Player, and that's the company that I work with now. And so in 2023, we launched, and 10 months later, we also launched the Franchise Game, which is an annual conference where we bring in some of the industry's brightest minds to discuss franchise ownership and operations. And so we finished our third year in August, this past August, and every year it gets bigger and better. And so, what we do at the Franchise Player is we consult, right? That's basically what we do, but we do a lot more than just consult. We really help people to identify what works best for them, right? So franchising isn't for everyone. So that's one of the first things we discuss. Is it for you? Is it not for you? And if it is, what industry is the best fit? And within that industry, which are the best brands that would be a good fit? So we take everyone through this rigorous vetting process and help them to get to the opportunity that's the best fit. So it's not one size fits all, but there are some similarities based on what people are looking for. But we try to get down to like the really granular details of what would be the right fit. And so we work with them from a consulting standpoint, help them find the right brand, and then we bring together all of the wraparound services. So they're going to need someone to help with real estate and store design, construction, marketing, market planning, like all the things, right? All the things that are going to help make them successful. And so over the past almost 20 years in franchising, I've been collecting people, right? As I move along in life, I find someone who's a gem in their discipline or several people. And I just maintain those relationships. We communicate on a regular basis. And so when I reach out and I need something, like even with you and I, we don't talk every day, but if I reach out to you, and I have a need, if you can help, you'll do that. And so I've met a lot of great people in this space that understand what I do and why I do it. And they're usually willing to help in whatever capacity they can.
That is awesome. Yeah. Yeah. If you ever call me, I'll say yes before the question, Tarji. So,
I know. I appreciate that more than you know.
and then it's funny because I remember I attended a little bit of the franchise game. I think it was what, last year or 2 years ago at Morehouse or
Oh, yes. So that was the scrimmage.
scrimmage.
Yes. So we have a platform called the scrimmage. So it's a half day version of the franchise game that's more mobile. We can take it around the country. So we had a scrimmage at Morehouse
Yeah.
College, and you came, and we had an informal
Yeah.
reunion of folks that worked at the
Yeah. And
hotel.
then it's funny
Um,
because one of the panels you did, it was about, franchise ownership, and you had a couple of pretty great people. And one of them I met through Leadership Atlanta. And I just had met
mm,
like, months ago. So it's funny how everything comes
yeah,
around and, and it was great to even being, to your point, even being the hotel industry, right?
mhm,
Franchise is big in hotel, been around with
mhm,
brands, so very well versed. But then when you just listen as, someone and you see what people, the experiences, the learnings, it's
yeah,
amazing. So you're doing a great job, and it was great to see a lot of students, people that are in business, everything that you're helping educate. So yeah, keep
yeah.
the amazing work. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like, I come from very humble beginnings, and this has been my path forward. And I just like to remind folks that, it doesn't have to make sense to everybody for it to make sense to you,
Mm,
right? So if there's something that you're passionate about, really just believing in yourself and trusting that you have at least enough to take the first step,
yeah.
right? So you got to start
Yeah.
somewhere, and nothing's ever going to be perfect, but if it feels right and you feel like you can achieve a certain level of success, like you just got to start somewhere and just go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's funny. This morning I was jogging, and I'll post this on LinkedIn because I was thinking, and I was like, don't quit before you take your first step, right? Because I wasn't in the mood of going. And
Hmm.
then to your point is like a lot of things in life, we just gotta do it, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't always go perfect. It's not as, may not be as good or as easy or maybe better,
Hmm.
right? But a lot of times you just gotta go and do it, and you be surprised, right, on the path that it may lead you.
And sometimes you're the only one that believes in you, right? There may be, we live in a society where you're not always going to have a mentor. You're not always going to have a cheerleader, right? So you have to really dig in and believe in what it is you're doing. And then eventually people will catch on, right? That's kind of been my story. Like when I started in franchising, I knew nothing.
Uh,
I had probably never even uttered the word franchise. And then eventually when you fall down enough or you make enough mistakes and get slapped on the hand enough, you learn. And so I just never gave up. I think that's kind of what the secret sauce has been is I just never gave up. Even when it got hard, I was just like, I got to figure this thing out. And so now, almost 20 years in, I'll have folks that I worked with at different companies that will reach out to me and want to pick my
uh,
brain or, they'll be, hey, I'm looking for a new role. Do you know anybody? Like that kind of thing. And so it feels good to have the respect of your peers when at one point,
yeah.
like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. But that's what happens if you stick to it. You believe in yourself, and you're not afraid to make mistakes and not afraid to ask
Yeah.
questions,
Mm,
right? That's the only way to get better. And I think some people are just afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know something, or they have a question. And I mean, you'll never get better if you if you stick to that, right? You gotta put the ego to the side and say, listen, hey, what does that mean? I've never heard that before. And I think that is definitely benefited me because I'm not
mm,
afraid to ask a question. I'm not afraid to say I don't know
yeah.
something because nobody can know everything.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And, and listening you speaking and some things that you mentioned throughout your comments, it made me think because you speak about your humble beginnings, and I know that you often speak about resilience, and I know how resilient you are, right? Just knowing some
Thank
of your
you.
journey. And, so where do you think that resilience really was created for you? Is it early life, career, leadership moments? And, what's your take on that?
So even though I come from humble beginnings, I had great parents. My mom, she was the nurturer. My dad, he was big on, he always said, there were so many things I wanted to do as a child. I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to be a model and all these things. And he said, there's nothing wrong with that. He said, but I want you to do something that challenges you to use your mind. I thought, I'm 10 years old. I don't know what the heck he's talking about, but he would say it enough. And, but he would say it, but he would also show me by example. And so then I had a son. I was a young mom, an unwed mom, and not a single mom because his dad was always around, but I was unwed. And that kind of gave me motivation to really have that stick-to-itiveness that it takes to be successful, right? Like I couldn't just give up because I had somebody depending on me. And so I think those two things combined with the fact that I like nice things.
You have great taste, right?
Thank you. I like what I like. And so I think with all of that, and then also I don't do anything that I don't enjoy. Right? I'm not gonna sacrifice my mental health for a paycheck. So if that means I have to make a little bit less to have more mental stability and joy, then I'm willing to do that. And so I think all of that just kind of creates that perfect storm for just really being able to stick to something and be resilient when necessary.
Wow. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And love your comments, especially nowadays, right? I think that on my own journey, right, making sure that you take care of yourself, right? Your mental health, everything, and for you to have that firm. And I know you do, not just now, but before that you hold. Like this is my red line, right? Whenever impacts me or whatever. And so that kudos to you for having that and living it, right? Just not saying.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think about our days at the hotel, right? We could have been out 7 days a week, right? Because people would come and they would provide things to us at the sales office, treats or tickets or invitations to events. And so, at some point you just have to say, you know what, I can do this and this, but not everything. And so I think I learned a lot from being in that role too, because it could have been a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
Had I not been careful. I was new to the city, didn't really know anyone, right? So I learned to just kind of be a little bit more selective in what I did pretty early on when I moved here to Atlanta, because there's a lot going on here. And if you're not careful, things can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. I'm the proof of that. So
I let you guys go hang out, and I stayed home.
Smart woman. Yeah. And talking a little bit on this topic, like, was there any trait or any, I don't know, or belief that you had to let go along the way, right? In order for you to become the leader, the business owner you are today?
My gosh, it's still a struggle even today, right? We hear about this imposter syndrome, right? And so I talked earlier about, how people from previous lives, I didn't really have the support. I didn't really have the mentorship that I probably needed. And so just really believing in myself, right? And not allowing myself to succumb to the belief of others, right? So I had to really dig deep and say, okay, well, let me take a step back. So I would go into organizations and I would feel like just because someone was there before me, they had all the answers. and I didn't really have anything to contribute. And in some environments, it was because I didn't feel confident, or it was because someone made me feel like I didn't have anything to offer, right? So that's where knowing yourself, knowing your worth and your value comes into play. And so I had to get out of my own way and really start to have more faith and confidence in myself and stop doubting myself. Like if I didn't believe in me, nobody's going to believe in me, right? So there was this turning point where I was just like, you know what? No more. Enough is enough. Like, I'm going to figure this thing out if it's the last thing I do. And so again, just that tenacity, just really not giving up, because I knew, like, what I do now and why I do it. I knew that there was a need for this, right? I knew that there was a need for what I bring to the table, the special skill set that I have. And not everybody could see that. And I also learned that I'm a bit of a visionary. So sometimes I'm forward thinking, and sometimes it takes some people a little bit longer to catch up to the way I think. And that's okay, right? I'm different. I'm a little bit quirky and all the things, but that's part of what makes me who I am.
Yes.
So
that is,
no regrets on that, but it's been quite the journey. For sure.
Yeah. That is interesting, and it's funny now, right? I don't know if funny is the right word, but it's like right now in your new role, I love that you know, I don't know if you work exclusively with minorities, but I know you work a lot with minority, right? Because especially historically, minorities, right? They can be challenged on either being taken advantage, right, in processes, right? You know, in life, right? Everything we know, right? It's proven, like mortgages and anything like this, right? So the same kind of apply from the education perspective is like, hey, this is really what is within fair expectations from a business perspective on both sides, and this is where this is, you know, taking advantage. So with that said, you know, you're helping open doors for a lot of people. You know, you're helping them see the vision, see the potential, and taking that first step. And was there anyone along the way that has helped that, you know, besides your parents, right? Your dad, with making sure you use your brain?
I would say, you know, really it started with me just paying attention to what was happening around me and noticing the disparity from an ownership perspective, right? And I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, something's not right around here. Like, you know, why is that, right? So I started to dig a little bit deeper, like, why is that the case? Like, and it was a matter of the information not reaching certain communities, right? So I would work for different companies. I'm like, hey, we need to be more, you know, we need to be more inclusive, you know, and, you know, it's kind of taboo to say those things, but I noticed it, right? You know, can't hide the fact that I'm a double minority. I'm a Black woman. It is what it is, right? Can't hide that. So when I started the Franchise Player, it was really to bring attention to the benefits of franchise ownership to communities that were underserved, right? Who didn't have access to the information as readily as some others. And in doing that, I realized that there were people from all over that needed this information. So I like to say that what we created was created out of a need, but we don't discriminate. Like, this is, it's for everyone. Whoever wants to get into franchising and wants to do it in a way where they're pulling from just solid, accurate information. Like, we're here to work with any and everybody. And so you know, there's that challenge of, okay, are you just for a specific group of people? I'm for the people who want to operate in franchising with integrity. That's what this is all about for us. So if you come to the franchise game or a scrimmage, or if you hire me to come and do a huddle, which is where I go and I talk to groups of less than 50, whoever wants to learn about franchising and access to resources, that's what we're all about. So yeah, that's kind of it. But I've had some some bosses along the way who have bought, one boss that I had from Duncan, he was the first one to buy a table at the franchise game in 2023.
Aww.
Yeah, I think we sold 6 tables
Aww.
that year, and he was the first one. And so again, collecting people over these years, it's a matter of just collecting the folks that get it, right? That want to operate with integrity, that treat people with respect and kindness, and consider those that may or may not look like them, that want to do business and do it the right way for the right reasons. And so those are the people that I gravitate to. Those are the people that I enjoy working with. And those are the people who support what we do because they understand that it really comes from a place of just having a love for people.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great. And yeah, I mean, it is, right? Because it's and I don't know, it's because I know you that I really know it comes from the heart, right? But it's because, right, nowadays there's a lot of lip service, right, on people that say that they do the right things and they want to, get social media hits and all that, versus the ones that do, even when the lights are not on, right, when no one is looking. And I think that's why, right, you haven't had hasn't been easy, and there's always a challenge, like, owning a business. But that's why I think that you bring that success. And, your previous boss was the first to buy the table, right? Because they know it's real, and they know, of course, that you're very, capable, clearly.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like, making sure you don't overpromise and underdeliver, right? And I think anyone that knows me just like you, like I wouldn't work at a hotel that I wouldn't stay at, right? I like to look myself in the mirror. I like to sleep well at night, and I don't know anybody who does the opposite and can sleep well at night, right? But I like to operate in a fashion where I'm establishing trust, right? Because I think every relationship is built on trust, so it should be. And so I try to carry that into all of my relationships, whether it's personal or work related. If it's a client, I have this one client group that a husband and wife couple, Kirk and Colleen Jeter. They just bought the rights to develop 120 Lola Beans locations in the entire state of Texas.
Wow.
So, that comes from relationships. So they had a number of Wingstop locations. And they divested and bought into this brand. And it was because of, the relationship. Of course, they did their due diligence, but they know that I'm not going to bring an opportunity to them that I don't see value in. And so, of course, they had to ultimately make that decision. But it was done because, they even considered it because they know that I'm going to bring them an opportunity that I think would make sense for them. And I've done my due diligence on. And so it just, it really means a lot to me that I have the trust of the folks that I work with, that I may have worked with in the past. And that, they'll take my call, they'll respond to my text message. Just my reputation means a lot to me. I just really try to do the right things, and I don't always get it right. But I definitely do my best.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congrats, huge sale, deal. And like on your business, like what's the usual time frame for these type of deals to execute? Like, I know it can vary a lot, right? But I don't know, on ballpark, more or less.
Man, I can tell you. So the smaller deals seem to take a lot longer, right?
Nice.
It's always the case, right? And usually it's folks who are just getting started, right? So a deal can take up to a year, right? It can take 90 days up to a year, right? Ideally, you want it to take about 90 days or so, if not less. This deal, this Lola Beans deal with the Jeters happened pretty quickly. Because they're so astute, they're like so savvy. They do their research. They believe in the brand. They believed in the brand, I should say. They still believe in the brand. And so once they did their homework, they visited the headquarters, met the founders, Donnie and Missy Bradley. They were all in. They were all in. So that deal probably happened quicker than any deal. It's the largest deal I've ever closed, and it happened the quickest of any deal I've ever closed. And that, I mean, that says a lot in the almost 20 years I've been working in franchising.
That is awesome. Well, you just got to do more of those, then you're done.
Yeah. One or two more of those and I can retire.
Yeah, congrats. And then, so you've been a few years, in your entrepreneur journey, helping, from the franchise side. What has been the hardest is kind of begin to bring your vision to reality, or sustain, keep going forward when things are not going your way?
Can I say a combination of everything? Yeah. It's the community that I started out serving initially in 2023, which is, underrepresented communities. If they've not been exposed to or heard of the benefits of franchise ownership and how to do it properly, it can come across as maybe something that is almost a scam, right? Like there's so many people out here just offering things that aren't necessarily achievable. And so to someone or a group of folks that might not really understand it, it can come across that way. Like, hey, you pay this and then you become that, or this is how much you could potentially make. And so when there are a lot of folks out here, again, over promising, under delivering, then I come along with this message and it's like, it's so it takes a while to develop the trust of those who may not be familiar with this industry. But then also, just on the days when, as an entrepreneur, like every day is not payday, right? So having to be very strategic about budgeting, because there can be some months where, nothing comes in. And then there could be 6 months before something comes in. So just really being committed to success, which means making sure everything is considered as part of the business, right? So you just have to be very responsible and disciplined. And that takes work, because until I became a full-fledged entrepreneur, I always had that paycheck to rely on, right? And so I could be a little frivolous with certain things. And, but now, and it doesn't matter how much money I make. I'm always going to Ross, Cesar. I'm going to Ross to see what's in Ross. I'm doing the things, right? Because I want to make sure to never lose sight of, when the times aren't great, right? Because if you don't keep yourself grounded, you can end up back at square one with nothing pretty quickly.
And how do you measure success nowadays versus early on in life? Let's say if you compare when you start, like how?
That's a great question. I think success for me is, again, not just the dollars and cents, right? It's how am I impacting the community in a way that is really tangible? Am I making a difference? And I can tell you there was one instance where I realized, okay, you're onto it. Don't give up. And it was the first time we did the franchise game back in September of 2023. And there was a franchisee, he owns about 100 Pizza Huts. And he said to me, where were you when I was getting started?
Wow.
I said, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing something that matters. And every year this thing grows and grows, and people are really being impacted in a positive way. So that was one of those moments. That was an aha moment for me, for sure.
Yeah, that is awesome. And then when you look, I know that you work now with other industries, right? But you still work a lot with hospitality related industries like coffee and whatever else. And what is something that personally and also professionally kind of excites and perhaps something for us to think through as you look into the kind of future of hospitality?
I think I'm optimistic, right? I think AI is a great tool to have to really make processes more efficient. But I'm optimistic that eventually, as a community, we'll get back to human relationships and providing a great or a fantastic guest experience. I think we've lost sight of that in a lot of ways. It's more about, just the bottom line and, how much money can we make? And service has suffered tremendously, even in the hospitality industry. But I'm optimistic, right? I guess I'm just old school when it comes to what hospitality should be. I think enough of us, when we put our heads together, I think at some point, the pendulum's going to swing in the other direction, and people are going to crave more human interaction than currently. Yeah. So I'm hopeful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, I always look to, I don't know, I always prefer to look at things on the half full. It's not always perfect. They can do better, but to me is a better way to look at things and keeps you going forward, right? There's always a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when I worked in the hotel industry, I really enjoyed engaging with the front desk staff or the housekeeping staff and rewarding them for just doing a great job. Or when, one of my clients or customers would have something positive to say, I would go and let the manager know. I would ask for them to send it to me in writing so that I could share it. And to just see the look on someone's face when they've done a great job and they're being recognized for that. I mean, you can't replace that. That right there, it definitely pulls at the heartstrings, and that's what hospitality is all about. So you take care of your people, they're going to take care of your customers, and I think that's the future of hospitality, getting back to the basics and the roots.
Yeah, yeah, and as you're talking, it's funny, right? There's times in our lives and work that you had that person, right, that just made that one sentence, took that one time to acknowledge and resonates with you forever, right? And I think, to your point, if we can do that, whenever we go buy our coffee or at work, and just be intentional, and doesn't take a lot of time, but it can really make a huge impact to someone's life and trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I enjoy when I go to get my coffee, my latte or my tea or whatever it is. And the same girl every day, she screws my name up big time, but she's so happy. She's like, "Hi, Taraji," and I never correct her because she's so excited. Aww. Because she remembers my name, she sees my face. So we have this exchange, and it really sometimes just sets the tone for my day. Like, you know what? Like, she really made me smile, and it's so priceless. Yeah. Right?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Taraji.
Taraji. Hi, Taraji. Yeah. So I'll never correct her.
I'm the same way. You call me whatever, as long as it's, positive, bring it on.
Exactly. She's close enough.
Yeah, she's in the ballpark, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but she makes my day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tarji, just as we close, if you want people, right, that are listening to this, just to walk away with one thing from your journey or anything you'd like to share, what would that be?
Yeah. It would be, life is short. You should be happy. You should be doing something that allows you to feel fulfilled, right? And it may or may not be franchising, but I can tell you one thing. if it is, there's an industry out there for you. And if you're looking for a franchise that fits, your lifestyle, I would love to be able to help you to find that. But it really comes with being honest with yourself first, right? Is what I'm currently doing what I can see myself doing for the rest of my life, or at least for the next 10 or 15 years? And if the answer is no, right? Figuring out what that looks like, and all jokes aside, like whether it's franchising or not, just really being honest with yourself, sitting still enough to say, you know what, this is what I love, or, you know what, I can really see myself doing something else. And I think if it's something else that's going to bring you joy and you're able to monetize it, good for you. I say go for it.
Oh, that's amazing. Great one. And thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to connect. It was nice, just like we're reconnecting and catching up. So, it's been really a pleasure. And I admire you so much just from, your career, the amazing person you are, professional, and, like a brother. When I see you like from outside, I'm just, makes my heart warm, because like seeing your path. So congrats, and we just keep getting better and better.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you for having me. I feel like, man, we were just two crazy kids when we met 20 years ago. Now look at us.
Exactly right.
This is awesome. This is awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and talk soon.